have the tax base to do that. Not only in the small communities, but in my home of Thunder Bay, which is a larger municipal centre, 110, 120,000 people by standards in my riding, obviously the largest community by far. Still, even in that municipality, Speaker, we have made huge infrastructure investments. It has created a tremendous amount of tax room in the city of Thunder Bay, and it has allowed them to go forward with projects I would suggest that they otherwise might not have. And I would just flag two examples, Speaker, of that right now on the books and having already begun in Thunder Bay. Our commitment to a brand new courthouse, part of our infrastructure and capital regeneration programs, somewhere north of a $100 million project. And a long-term care home project, Speaker, that also, when it's online, I'm sure is going to approach somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 million. Those two projects alone, $200 million, both of which are ramping up now, providing brownfield regeneration, downtown South Core revitalization, tremendous job opportunities in the building trades and construction work for people in the city of Thunder Bay, all that coming. The other half of what we did when the recession hit, Speaker, was invest heavily in retraining. We knew as a result of the recession that there were a lot of people that found themselves out of work, and what we did primarily, but not only, but primarily through our second career program, retraining program, was set a target, I think, of 20 or 21,000 that we wanted to get into that program, Speaker, and in fact, we exceeded the program targets significantly. I think we topped out somewhere in the neighborhood of 26,000 people. Now, I can tell you I have witnessed and experienced firsthand the effect of those retraining dollars in many communities in my riding. I do notice, I have to say from time to time, when we talk about our investments in retraining, in education, that members of the opposition seem to dismiss these investments as being insignificant. But I can tell you, Speaker, I have witnessed firsthand the effect of those investments. I remember very clearly a visit I paid to Atikokan in my riding at the Atikokan Adult Literacy group in that riding. We invested in that small organization in Atikokan and had an opportunity to hear 1, 2, or 3 different people speak about the impact that those retraining dollars have been able to have on their ability to find themselves a capacity to get back into the job market. Many of these people are laid off forestry workers, Speaker. We know that in Canada alone, somewhere north of 200 pulp and paper and sawmills have closed over the last 6 or 7 years. Member of the oppositions would like to have people believe this is only a problem in Ontario, or more specifically Northern Ontario. People who are paying attention to this issue, of course, know that's simply not the case. This is all across Canada. In fact, it's all across the planet, I would suggest, where we're seeing these closures. So many of those people who are in my riding are laid-off forestry workers, and these retraining programs have allowed many of them to find a capacity to get back into the workforce. So I'm very, very proud of that. And once you've seen one of those stories, a first-hand testimonial by some of these people affected by those retraining dollars, it really commits and sends home to you the importance of programs just like it. And I want to thank the Minister of Training Colleges and Universities, John Malloy, for his continued commitment to that program. Speaker, as we go forward now, that's sort of the history of where we've been, but as we go forward now, and we heard in the throne speech, I think, 2 or 3 themes that I'm very excited about. One is that the Premier has very clearly articulated on behalf of our government that we are going to continue to maintain our commitments to what have been our priorities over the last 6 or 7 years. That's healthcare, that's education, and that's creating jobs for the economy in Ontario. I can tell you in my community the list of improvements in the healthcare situation in Thunder Bay-Atikokan are too long to mention here. I could easily do 20 minutes just on what we've been able to manage when it comes to healthcare improvements in my riding, and I know all the members that I'm honored to share this legislative assembly with would probably have capacity to do the same thing in regard to what's occurred in their home ridings. We heard on education our commitment to fund 20,000 more spaces in post-secondary education, I think beginning with the fall intake coming up in 2010. Healthcare commitments continue to be at the base of what we plan to do. Speaker, in my riding, as I've said, many examples that I could list. And of course, Speaker, I think I'll use my last 30 or 40 seconds here to highlight what we've clearly articulated in our throne speech, the commitment we have in terms of resource development. When the throne speech speaks very clearly to the Ring of Fire, I know that people in Northern Ontario, Northwestern Ontario are very much looking forward to what that project is going to yield to the benefit of all northern communities, of all people in the province of Ontario, including our First Nation communities as we go forward. I know without a doubt that we are going to do everything that we can. I know several ministers are involved in this project. We're going to do everything that we can to see that move forward to create jobs in Northern Ontario. Speaker, my time is up, and I'm happy to yield the floor to the member from Oak Ridges, Markham. Thank you, Speaker.
The chair recognizes the member.